at the moment. Let's also now talk about domestic markets. Devendra Nevgi, CEO at ZyFin Advisors, and Amit Harshekar will be joining us shortly as well. But let's just kickstart with Devendra. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
What are you making of it, Devendra? Sudden spike of interest once again, momentum building up. Of course, we did have global cues that played their part, but how are you viewing things at the moment?
I think this is more cyclical and local rather than global. It's very clear that the reform momentum has been picking up.
Right.
The elections on the assembly side have been positive. BJP now controls almost 85% of the population in the terms of states. So the reforms and the macros, including the inflation, so everything is falling in place from a perspective of a bullish market. We personally feel that all said and done, yeah, we agree with the nature of the market, the way it is going. But yes, the initial rise in the market in terms of the PE expansion, which is liquidity and hope fueled, that has to ultimately get converted into GDP growth and subsequently the earnings. The key here is that the execution is more important, and as I have been discussing with your channel in the past, that execution remains the key. For example, the direct benefit transfer in LPG, it's a good proposal on the paper, but very difficult to implement, and if it is implemented, it will really create wonders as such.
So what are you making of the reform moves that we've seen so far, whether it be on the, like to take a few examples, you've got oil and gas, that's one space, we've got something coming up in infra that they're pushing for. Are these steps in the right direction?
I think absolutely there are definitely steps in the right direction, and coming to infra, yes, India desperately needs good infrastructure. For example, look at the and truck, which on an average remains 60% of the road in India, which is really and dampener to the economy as such. A truck spends around 25% of his average time on the check and toll nakas, and a truck travels almost around 250 to 300 kilometers in India at the speed of just 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. The comparative Brazil, it's around 400 kilometers per day, and in US it is 800 kilometers per day. So the infrastructure boost, if it is put it in the right direction, I think it will take us to the next leap in the Indian economy. As far as the reforms are concerned, yes, they all are all falling into place. There are no big bang reform, but yes, the 24th November when the winter session starts, we could see some fireworks. The budget could be very important. So the direction is good, but implementation of that still remains a large impediment.
I take that point that implementation is going to be key, but I was in conversation with a certain market commentator over the weekend, and I had the same point saying, well, this time around it's all going to be about implementation. He raised a valid point, and I'm going to follow up with what Andrew said this morning. He basically told me, you talk about implementation, but this time the kind of mandate the government's actually got is way different to what we've seen in the past. So the risk to implementation, which you would have actually seen, is much less. One, do you agree to that? And secondly, what Andrew pointed out this morning, Devendra, was interesting, that we somehow need to get accustomed to probably, trading or, having the markets at higher valuation. Is that a point that's justified as well? Your thoughts on both these aspects?
See, yeah, I agree with that execution is really important and really key to, for me, ultimately, reform should result into growth, and growth should result into earnings.
Agreed.
Is that cycle getting complete? That's most important for us. As of now, yes, it's not. It will come, it may come in future, we don't know. But yes, I agree completely. As far as higher valuations are concerned, I don't agree, because the simple reason is that India right now is a tad above its long-term historical valuations, and that would result into some inflows being kind of calibrated from the global side, because most of the money has come in. Take the example of 2014. There has been not much of improvement in the flows as such now. It's just around 13.5 and 14 billion now. Okay. So valuations do matter, and higher valuation can be justified by us if and only if it is accompanying by higher earnings and just not by PE expansion. That's the key.
Fair.
All right. Okay, wait, let's also bring your perspective.
Talking about the banking and the financial pack, we've seen some good strength once again. And remember, this pocket has been the outperformer for the month of October in terms of the way some of these stocks actually played out. Looks like the November series, as even Amit was mentioning, seems to be generating some bit of interest. Devendra, any thoughts here in terms of how the financials are shaping up? I mean, we've got a couple of these banking names showing decent traction once again. Is this a space that investors should be in?
No, largely, I think for us, banks are just the cost of the deposits, the cost of credit, and the NPAs. This is what defines banks for us. Yes, there is an NPA cycle which is not yet completely over. The hope that is driving banking stocks is clearly and very clear the rate cut that is expected in the next year, and the hope that growth will drown this NPAs. But I think the problem selectively with the banks are that NPAs are becoming a bigger issue, and the hope that it will at some point of time some of the banks will come out of it. But from our side, we don't do a very large research on banking and financials, but yes, taking into account the fact that some of the larger private sector banks which have better risk management, better controls, I think they will continue to do well, and the premium over the public sector banks will definitely continue.
It kind of adds up because you've seen some of the other rate sensitives like the real estate pack. Take a look at the entire move that we're seeing today. DLF. You've got HDR, Unitech's been on fire. Let's try and get those up for you. That's DLF there, 3.5% higher. It's been a good up move for some of these realty counters. And as Ian Devendra was mentioning, it's the entire hope of a rate cut that we've been seeing in the market over the last couple of days. Unitech's up almost 10%. So are you saying Devendra, that probably December 2nd when the RBI meets, we aren't expecting a rate cut?
No, we don't expect that in December, definitely, because RBI will be a bit more cautious on the short-term fall in the inflation rate. We all are aware that there is a base effect element which is coming into play, which will wear off in the first quarter of the next year. So I think RBI would probably be much more cautious in cutting the rates outright, because they would probably need much more monetary space to be created from fiscal consolidation by the government, much more monetary place created from the reforms. I think only then we will see the rate cut. So I don't see that in the current policy. Definitely they might turn a little more dovish, but I don't see rate cuts coming in this calendar year at least.
Waiting for a rate cut is auto. I mean, and by last month, of course, there were hopes that there was a revival, the turnaround was in effect. Now this month's sales figures are leading us to feel that was perhaps an exception, nothing to get too excited about. Even a rate cut, if it were to come in, would it really be enough to suddenly boost demand to that extent?
See, partially yes, and I'll come to that at a later stage. But from the auto perspective, I think that 1 month is too short of a time to judge more turn in the auto cycle. One is that our surveys that have taken place in the last couple of months, there is definitely a positive sentiment, especially towards two-wheelers, and especially in the urban class. In the past, there has been a lot of positive sentiment in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. This time it is the younger urban class which is more positive on the government and the environment, and they are planning to buy that. Plus there are lots of positive for the auto sector in terms of interest rates coming down, in terms of currency being stabler, in terms of commodity price which are down by 20% in this year. This all is going to help. So let's not judge it by only a month. And as I was discussing with him, it's not that Diwali is the only time in October when people buy cars and homes. I think it's changing completely.
I think what they're saying is if they've taken the figures for September and October combined, and it's still looking too flat.
Yeah.
And yes, last year Diwali was a little later,
Yeah.
but the expectation again is that end of the year things will see a slowdown.
No, there might be a slowdown in the short term, yes, but our consumer sentiment surveys on vehicle purchases clearly show that it is buoyant, and we have seen that these surveys lead the Siam numbers by 3 to 6 months, and we have done it in the past. It works extremely well. The surveys in pockets, or rather not diversely across the country, but in pockets certainly are positive on the
so auto is something that still looks attractive. Definitely. Even at these levels.
All right, Devendra, any closing comments you'd like to make in terms of strategy that one should keep in mind for now?
I think the key strategy for viewers in your retail segment is to, of course, stay invested, and any sharp dips, don't hesitate to invest, and invest in a disciplined manner rather than trying to time the market. There are immense amount of calculation that has gone on how long-term investing does very well. Concentrate on sectors which probably you can understand, and not get lost in the noise, but look at the longer-term sound. And I think India is in a inflection point. If they are able to pull off the regulators, the government is able to pull off, I think we are in for a good time, despite the short-term volatility may give some pain.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. Just about 30 seconds left to go, so let's go across to Priyank on the heat map. Overall, a fairly quiet session, ending, it looks like, partially in the red.